Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Scorza, Associate Provost for Global Learning here at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Welcome to campus. We are here tonight for the first of our 2009 series of UN Pathways lectures, and miraculously, we are starting on time due to the efficiency and grace of our guest, who I will introduce momentarily. First, I have a few ground rules and announcements to make. Ground rule number one, you should all know that the event is being recorded on video and audio tape. So please, if you would, silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. Our ground rules are basically, we will have a conversation between two distinguished diplomats. After they interrogate one another, we will have some time for questions and discussion amongst the entire group. A gentleman will be moving through the aisle with a wireless microphone, and I would request that if you have a question that you would speak into the microphone. Even though the room perhaps does not require it, it's required to pick your voice up on the audio tape. The announcements, next week will be a very, very big week for the Global Learning Office and the UN Pathways program. We have 4 events scheduled that I'd like to tell you about. Firstly, on March 4th, we are co-sponsoring a lecture on the Florham campus titled Human Rights and Accountability in the Palestinian Territories, Gaza and Beyond. If you're interested, we will be having a bus taking students, staff, faculty, anyone who would like to go from this building to the Florham campus. The bus will depart in front of the SUB building at 11:45 and will return back to the Metro campus at approximately 3 o'clock after the program. There is a second program, however, scheduled for the Florham campus on the 4th. This will be a UN Pathways event, Saudi Arabia in its region and in the world, featuring the permanent representative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Again, we will have a bus leaving from the Metro campus to go to that event. The bus will depart in front of the Student Union building at 4:45 and return immediately after the lecture. Or if you want to go to both events, you can just take the morning bus in and stay all day and all night. It's lovely at the College of Florham. That is March 4th. March 5th, the business gets even more exciting. On Thursday, March 5th, there will be a special briefing at the United Nations in celebration of International Women's Day. The briefing will be at 10 a.m. And if you are interested in attending, there will be a bus departing from the Metropolitan campus. And I would ask that you contact Craig Morton at the Dean of Students office. Craig, if you can identify yourself. Either by phone or by email. It's Morton, M-O-U-R-T-O-N, at fgu.edu. And if you were interested in either of the Wednesday bus trips to the Florham campus, you can contact Craig as well. Finally, also on March 5th, we will have the next of our continuing series of United Nations video conferences. The topic will be United Nations Reform. The precise title is The Role of NGOs in Civil Society, Prospects of Reform, Likely Future Scenarios. And that event will be at 10 o'clock in the ITV room in Dickinson Hall. That's Dickinson 1132. That's it for the announcements. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce to you first Ambassador Ahmad Kamal, a great friend of Fairleigh Dickinson University, member of the Board of Trustees, former permanent representative of Pakistan to the United Nations and former foreign minister of Pakistan. He will have a conversation this evening with the permanent representative to the United Nations of Iceland, Ambassador Gunnar Pálsson. I was pleased to see when I read His Excellency's bio that, like me, he started his professional career as a journalist, and like me has a doctorate in political science, and like me studied philosophy. So I began to think to myself, perhaps I could be the permanent representative of Iceland to the UN. But then I would have to be interrogated by Ambassador Kamal on such issues as the financial situation in Iceland, the political situation in Iceland, and I would not trade places with His Excellency for anything at this moment. So I give you Ambassador Kamal and Ambassador Pálsson.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be at Fairleigh Dickinson and to welcome you, not just to this university, but to this room, which is really being used for the first time for the UN Pathways lectures. And so, welcome as a pioneer to Fairleigh Dickinson University. You and I have known each other for a fair number of years, so I know that you've had a posting in India, which I prefer to forget all about. And I know that you've dealt with chemical weapons, which is what I was very much involved in the negotiations of. And that you are part of the UN mafia, because you are back in the UN. So I know a lot, or a fair amount, about you. Unfortunately, I do not know as much about Iceland, because all that I know about Iceland is that when you are flying from Europe to the United States, at one point you have a country on your map which is called Iceland. Nobody's ever been there. Nobody ever knows anything about Iceland. And those of us who are above a certain age remember that in the days when cheap air travel was not possible, the only way to go from the United States to Europe at a reasonable cost was through Iceland Air. And that was the only way in which students particularly used to travel from the United States to Europe. So you have some place in our memory. But for most of us, we don't even know why is Iceland called Iceland. All that we know is that it's a country which is said to be full of ice, but it isn't, because you've got the Gulf Stream warming it up. And from time to time on television, we see burly men throwing heavy stones vast distances, and that seems to be the national occupation of Iceland, throwing heavy stones. So tell us to begin with, and you have an interesting audience here. I salute the presence of some diplomats from the United Nations who obviously know as little about Iceland as I know. And I notice some people from Iceland in the audience who are here to make sure that you tell the truth and that you do not stray from the straight and narrow path. Tell us something to begin with, sir, about Iceland. Why is it called Iceland? Where is it? How big is it? What is the population size? Why do you keep hiding the population size of Iceland at the UN? Tell us a bit more about the basics of Iceland.
I would be happy to do that, Kamal. But before I do, can I thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and spend this evening with you, and thank the Fairleigh Dickinson University as well. For someone coming from Iceland, a country that has been down on its luck lately, it is, of course, highly encouraging to see such a good turnout this evening, and I take this as an indication of your curiosity about the place, especially, of course, having heard my colleague, Ambassador Kamal, tell you that Iceland is a well-kept secret. I well understand that now. I am delighted to share the podium with my old colleague, Kamal. I remember him as a stellar performer while he served Pakistan with distinction more than 10 years